Today's guest is very special to me. He's been an integral part of my life for the last 20, almost 21 years, raising me into the man that I've become today. He's been an administrator for over 20 years, serving currently as an elementary school principal. And he's got an impeccable sense of humor with lots and lots of dad jokes, which he's sure to share in this episode. So this was a wonderful episode, as always. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. But without further ado, please welcome my dad to the show, Mr. Ben Steele. So, for anyone that doesn't know you and doesn't know that you're elementary school principal, I want you to start us off today with one of your popular, corny elementary school jokes.
One of my popular ones?
Yeah.
The problem with my jokes is I don't remember them after I tell them. So I have to, when I get them, I have to go and deliver them quickly. So normally the way it works is I hear a joke, and then one of my routines every morning at school is I go around to every classroom. And I've been doing this even when I was an assistant principal, so I've been doing this almost 20 years. I'll go around every morning and open the classroom door and tell everybody good morning, and then I'll ask them a joke. Normally the jokes take them a minute to get, so I'll open the door and say the joke. Usually it's a question, what is a so-and-so? And they'll all look at me, and then I'll tell them. And I just shut the door and go to the next classroom, and then I'll hear them laughing when I leave, because it takes them a little bit longer. See, jokes are not just telling a joke, but receiving a joke is a gift. Some people got it, Levi, some people don't. Still not sure if you really got that gift yet, but you're still young.
Frontal lobe hasn't fully developed.
All right, so you want me to start with a joke or end with a joke?
We'll do both.
Okay. What's the most popular chocolate served on a flight?
I don't know.
Plain chocolate.
That's so... Gosh. Oh, I hate that so much.
That's a good one.
That's so...
That's funny. I don't care who you are.
What was that? Plain
chocolate.
Plain chocolate.
Served on a flight. Do I need to explain it to you?
No.
See, you don't have a gift.
No, I got it. I'm just trying to...
Another one that I really want you to memorize, because it's been passed down by my father, from his father, probably from his father and all his forefathers, is, what did Tarzan say when he saw the elephants coming? He said, "Here comes the elephants." What did Tarzan say when he saw the elephants coming with sunglasses on?
I don't know.
He didn't say anything because he didn't recognize them. Oh, I've got some mileage out of those over the years.
Yeah, you have.
All right, enough jokes.
All right. So, I guess where I want to start is, I do it with every guest. You know, if you're a regular listener, you probably know. But
I like the ones that are normally under 45 minutes. I got a short
I don't know if
span.
we have any of those that are...
I've listened to most of them. Some of them I hadn't listened to yet, but I've enjoyed them all.
Have you had a favorite yet?
I really enjoyed the guy who works for the family, and not DFACS, but Family and Children's Service. I enjoyed his. And Miss Savannah's, that's one of the most recent ones I've listened to. I enjoyed that. So.
Yeah, those are both good episodes. Yeah, Miss Michael Powell is that guy's name.
Michael Powell.
Very wise man.
He was. You can tell the people. You can tell when people, I wouldn't say are sincere about things, but truly seek the Lord. You can just, there's an air about them that they have wisdom that just comes naturally. They're very, you can tell the things that they say are led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I think you would enjoy one of the recent ones we did, Landon Stone. That one. That was
Perry
good.
Stone's grandson.
No, I don't think so. But Landon, I said in the episode, but he's one of those people that you can tell that they love Jesus just by kind of like
Oh,
looking
Landon
at
was the
him.
young guy that works at Christ Chapel.
Yes, sir.
Had the cool Tundra truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's
I get
He's
to
a
see
cool
a
guy.
lot. I'm at the studio a lot, and so I get to see a lot of the guests come in. Just living in such proximity to the studio
right.
gives me some of the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of your viewers don't get to see.
Did you move close to the studio, or the studio moved close to you?
That's a long story, probably for a different episode.
Okay.
But it's like I'm kind of part of the fabric of this show from behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know. One of the financial backers, the big financial backers.
Okay.
With just some of the grassroots stuff that takes place here, like the power bill, the rent, the food, a lot of the stuff.
Food.
Yeah, for all the cast members and the behind your team. I really pretty much financially support the team.
Okay.
But that's my calling, and that's something that I enjoy doing, is just investing the majority of my check in the team that surrounds this podcast.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
But you see the vision for the long
I see
term,
the vision, yeah,
and you're here to make
which
it happen.
might be a good time to thank our sponsor. Today's sponsor is...
No, we can't say that.
We can't?
You can't say that.
Oh.
You can't
Do
say.
we need to cover it up?
Okay, so what I do on every guest try to is like do a kind of a where you grew up life story. So I kind of want to do the same for you, because many people know you, but not so many go way back with you growing up. So let's just kind of start there. You tell me where you were born, when you were born, how old you are, your socials. No, I'm kidding. But just start at the
My
beginning.
socials. I don't have any socials. I will one day.
When you retire?
When I retire, yep. Okay, so I was born in 1978. If you can do the math, that makes me 48 years old. It's funny when you get in your 40s how quickly you seem like your life is gone, and I know it gets different, but I can remember clearly Mama and Daddy, me, Mama, and Papa, Bob and Jan Steele. I can remember their 40th birthdays and thinking, wow, they're old. And here I am, 48. But I was born in Griffin, Georgia in 1978. We lived until I was about, I think I want to say we moved in the early 90s. We moved to Lamar County, but I was born in Griffin. We lived on 1070 Steele Road over in Bertie Community, which was an amazing place to grow up. We had a little small piece of land. I think we had like 5 or 6 acres, but it seemed huge. And that was back in the days before we grew up. We didn't really have a TV. We'd watch TV every once in a while, but me and your Uncle Isaiah spent a lot of times playing in the creek and riding bikes. We had some good neighbors, Corey and Justin, English, that lived across the street, and so we would ride bikes with them all the time. We had a big gravel driveway, and we'd ride down the gravel driveway, and then we had like a ditch, and we'd cut through that ditch and just spent a lot of good times playing in the creek, climbing trees. We had a big, huge oak tree, and it's funny because I was up that way. I had to go to an event out that way for work last week, and I cut back through the old Steele Road. And it's funny, we lived on Steele Road, but we were no relations to the Steeles of Steele Road. But I cut through there, and it's really funny how everything seems so much smaller than when you were a kid. But so many memories. When I drove down that road, I stopped. There was a creek down the road that had a big, huge, probably 6-foot pipe that went through it, and we would run through those pipes all the time. Why do you keep looking at the camera?
I make sure they haven't stopped recording. I'm
All right.
listening.
I can make the story more exciting if you're losing your attention.
No, I'm good.
Because I can always add some little things to the story
Do whatever you need
that,
to do.
like Cy says, are 95% true. But if I add a little 5% of things in there, nobody will know what's not true, but it will make the story better.
Okay.
Anyhow, I stopped at that creek and looked down in that creek and had so many memories as a kid of that creek. So I grew up there, my early years there. That's really the only memory I have. We lived a couple of other places before we moved to 1070 Steele Road, but that's where I grew up. In the early years, we spent a lot of time at our grandparents' house. Your great-grandfather, Daddy's father, was Mont Steele. So I think when Mom and Daddy named me, they named me after Daddy and after Pawpaw. We called him Pawpaw, and his name was Montague Claude Steele. And so my full name is Robert Benjamin Montague Steele. I was about 17 or 18 before I learned to spell all of that. But I have memories of spending time over at their house, and Pawpaw had a garage, and he was always working, doing woodworking in that garage, and they had bought us a whole, back then, the A-team was really big, and they had bought, I think there were 5 of us grandchildren. Daddy's brother's kids lived in Fayetteville at that time, and we would all get together and ride Hot Wheels, and they had a Hot Wheels, just a big plastic vehicle. It's like a 3-wheeler. You got a wheel on the front and 2 on the back, and we'd ride those Hot Wheels down that driveway. And we would pester Pawpaw and ride through his shop, and he'd come out just kidding with us, but he'd have a stick and start popping the Hot Wheels with the stick, and just good memories. And then he passed away in 1988, and it was a really hard time for Mama, which was my grandmother, which is Daddy's mother, and she's been dead for quite a while now. But so I spent a lot of time with her when we bought a trailer down the hill from where we lived in Griffin, and Pawpaw remodeled that, and Mama lived there. And so it was a very lonely time for Mama, and so I remember lots of nights at 1070 she would call Mom and Daddy and ask if I could spend the night, and so she would turn. We had a little path that went down through the pasture to Mama's house, and she'd turn those floodlights on, and I would go down and spend the night with her at night when she was lonely, and she would just make things so special for me.
What are some things she did?
I get a little emotional talking about her. Sorry.
What are some things she did to make those?
She had a little TV with rabbit ears, and we didn't have TV, and so when I would go down there with her, she would always, and it mainly the stuff we would watch would be like Matlock or Perry Mason or stuff like that, and she would always make you a special meal. She made tuna fish sandwiches a lot, and she would always make you a tuna fish sandwich that had lettuce on it, and she would have the regular Pringle chips, and then she would have a sweet pickle, a baby sweet pickle, and she would teach you take a little bite of your tuna fish sandwich and then take a little bite of the pickle. But she loved to cook, and she was we actually have a picture, and Mama might could find it, and you could put it in the notes of Mama holding you when you were born. But she was just such a loving person, and I haven't thank the Lord, I haven't lost a lot of close people to me in my life, but she's one that I think about a lot, and I can't wait to see one day. Her and Jim Davis, they're 2 people that I lost in my life that were real important to me that I can't wait to see one day. So I didn't think I would get emotional.
Has a way of doing that.
The older you get, the more emotional you get.
What was one of your favorite things that she actually cooked?
She always made salmon and biscuits. So the canned salmon, she would put flour with them and cut up onions and put in it, and she would patty them and fry them in a pan. And I remember when I went to college at West Georgia, I called her and asked her how to make those. and I started making them. I don't make them here much anymore, but that was one of my favorite things that she made. And her banana pudding. She made banana pudding that was, nobody could make it like her. But fortunately, my mama, your grandmother, now makes banana pudding that's, I would dare say, probably a little bit better than Mama's.
Wow.
Yeah. So we lived in Griffin for until I was 10 or 11. We always had cows, a few cows. We had horses. Daddy bought us a pony. We had 2 ponies. We had a real pretty Welsh pony named Princess, and she was a great horse. She was well trained, and your aunt Jenny and I, and then we had another horse that we got from the neighbors named Rusty, and Rusty was Rusty. He was not fun to ride. You always wanted to ride Princess, so we would take turns who got to ride Princess and who got to ride Rusty. But we lived in a, Bertie community was a small kind of rural area at the time, and so we rode the horses all over down the road. Jenny and I would ride the horses probably 4 or 5 times a week all over the place. So just good memories growing up there. But we always had a few cows and had those horses, had bottle calves that we would raise. And Willie, do you remember Willie?
I do.
So Willie was an old family friend that your papa actually led to the Lord. He was a custodian at Beaverbrook Elementary where Papa worked, and he had led Willie to the Lord, and Willie lived down the road, so Willie was always part of our family. But Willie would have a cow too, and he'd keep it up there. And then we leased a farm down the road, probably about 5 or 6 miles from where we lived. We leased, I think it was probably 30 or 40 acres. It might not have been that much. It seemed like a lot back then. But we leased the farm there, and we raised cows there too. So a lot of the evenings when Papa would get home from work, we would go over to the farm, and we would, back then, Papa had I think it was like a 1985 Chevrolet Silverado, and we would all, me and Jenny and Isaiah, would ride in the back of the truck all the way over there. Papa would holler out the window, "Catch the gate," and one of us would jump out and open the gate, and we'd check on the cows. And one time, the cows got out over there, and so Daddy let us ride the horses over there to get the cows up. And you would have, I thought, man, I felt like I was a real cowboy, rounding up cows on my horse. But so a lot of good memories there. So Papa, as you know, he's always enjoyed fooling with cows and farming, and so that kind of sparked in him to want to move to Barnesville. When at the time we were in a home church in Barnesville, a lot of our friends that we grew up with that you still know now, we were all part of a home church, and so we wanted to get closer to Barnesville for that reason, but mainly to have more property. And so for about 2 or 3 years, we spent a lot of Saturdays just going, meeting real estate agents out at land and looking for property to buy. So we finally bought 55 acres out on Bush Road, and I think I was probably 12. And boy, we moved out there, and it was just like, it was a young little boy who loved to be outside's dream. And so we spent until I was 19, we lived in Barnesville, and a lot of great memories at that place in Barnesville, a lot of hard work. I would have to say that growing up there, I think it really, your papa was really good about, and we didn't really like it at the time, but he was really good about teaching me and Isaiah a good work ethic. So a lot of long days. There wasn't much time, especially in the summer when he was off, for us to play, because we were always doing something, working in the garden, cutting hay, or working on fences, doing something. We always had something. But anyhow, when we moved to that house, it had been vacant for several years, and so when we first moved there, Isaiah and I lived up in the attic, and you had to go through part of the attic that wasn't even finished to get to our room. No air conditioner, no heat. And so in the winter times, you would get up out of the bed really quick, because we had electric blankets on the bed, but we'd get up real quick and run downstairs and get next to the gas heater because it was so cold. But I think it probably took us 5 or 6 years to really get everything fixed in that house and get central heat and air. But a lot of the amenities that you have, I didn't have. So you know what that means. It means I'm tougher than you. So we lived in Barnesville until I was about 19. I didn't like school at all. And me and your grandmother, we would butt heads a lot because I didn't want to do school. And we would cut up and kid around a lot. And you know me, Mama, she loves to laugh. But I would always take it too far and get in trouble. And she'd be over it. And so during that time in her life, your papa worked at Lamar County High School, and me Mama would get so mad at me, she'd take me up to Lamar County High School, and I'd have to sit and because we were homeschooled. And it was usually around 12, 1 o'clock. She'd call your daddy, Bob, I can't deal with me anymore. We'll bring him up here. And so I would sit, Daddy would park behind the shop at Lamar County, and she would drive me off, and I'd have to sit in Papa's truck, you know, for an hour or so, waiting for him to get out of school, and then I knew I was in trouble all the way home. So anyhow, I finally, when I was 17, I technically had one more year of school left, but I had gotten a job with Mr. Carl. And you've met him, Carl and Angie Davis, but Carl was had a framing business and framed houses, and I'd gotten a job with him and kind of picked that up pretty good because Papa had always done construction, so I picked that up pretty quick and was working with him and making good money at the time. For a 16-year-old, I was making pretty good money, and I thought that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and Mama was tired of making me do school, and so she said, if you go get your GED, you can be done. You don't have to do your senior year. So I went, and miracle from God, I passed the GED and got my GED, and so I worked for Carl. Really started the summer before I turned 17, started working for him, and worked for him for a year. Kind of during that time, I wasn't doing anything bad, but I wasn't really following Jesus either. And I had a group of friends, and probably weren't the best influence in my life. And I wouldn't say I guess I was kind of rebellious, but I always tried to come home when I was supposed to. But Papa knew I wasn't living right, and but I always, even when I was doing wrong, I always wanted to please Mom and Daddy, and when I did wrong, I always tried to go to them. And I think for the most part, there were times where Papa and I's relationship wasn't always great, but I always wanted to please him, and he knew that, and I always wanted to please Mama. But during that time, we were in a homeschool program, and when I was 17, I went to it was called ALERT. It was Air, Land, Emergency Resource Team, but it was kind of like a survival class, like boot camp, kind of like Army thing. So I went up there for, I think, 6 months. It was in upstate Michigan, and that was a pretty neat experience. Learned a lot of stuff. Learned just kind of how to rough it in the elements. We lived in tents, and it was kind of miserable. We had to go 2 weeks without talking. Could you imagine me going 2 weeks without talking?
No, and I know that you didn't go 2 weeks without talking.
Well, I got in trouble. I got caught one time. Preston Hardy and I both went to it, and the first 2 weeks you can't talk, and you had to go, they had these outhouses that you had to go to, and him and I went in the middle of the night, and we were, I was like whispering, he was whispering me, I'm like, this is miserable, I'm going to go home. We were talking, and our Sergeant Easling, which he later after that, he went on and became a Green Beret in the Army. But he talked deep like this. Recruit Steele, recruit Hardy. What are you doing talking? Anyhow, we got in trouble. So the next day, we always had, in the morning, we had roll call. We'd have to stand at attention and they left me and Preston standing. We had to stand out there. And there was a building where all the bigwigs would stay, and they could see us out there. And we had to stand at attention out there for like an hour. It might have been longer. It seemed like forever, and not talk. That was our punishment. But that's where I kind of learned, we ran a lot. Like every night where we went to eat, we would have to run home, and it was like 6 miles, and we'd jog home every night. And you always wanted to have KP, kitchen duty, so that you got to ride home, because if you had kitchen duty, you could ride home. But you talk about, I was probably in the best shape of my life then, but that's where I kind of learned to run and enjoyed running there. But
What age was this?
I was 17. I think I might have turned 18 right when I went.
So did you leave working for Carl
Uh-huh.
to go to this?
Uh-huh.
Why did you go to this?
Well, I kind of went because Papa and me and Mama thought it would be good for me, and really to kind of get me away from some of the friends that I'd had. So
Did it work?
it was kind of expensive for me to go there, and it wasn't. You could have stayed there, and I could have gotten my pilot's license, like small aircraft pilot license, or I could have become a certified fireman or a certified EMT. And it was just really kind of too expensive to go through that there. And so after I did basic training and graduated from basic training, I came home. But yeah, it taught me a lot of more discipline in my life. And I do think that it probably set me back on the right track. So anyhow, that whole time we were living in Barnesville, went to that, came home, worked for Carl a little bit longer. And then I remember having a conversation, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do construction, and I think I could have made a good living in it, but what kind of drew me away from that is I wanted some stability. I wanted a regular check, and when it would rain, one week I might make $600-700. The next week it might rain 3 out of 2 days and I'd make $200. No insurance, no retirement. And so I remember having a conversation with Pawpaw, and Pawpaw said, I've made really good money. And he said, I've made not so good money. He said, but the best money I ever made was steady money. And so that kind of got me thinking, hey, and I had already started school. I started Gordon, and I was just going to get my associate's degree and be done. And Pawpaw, we had that conversation, and I kind of started, because even when I went to Gordon, the whole 2 years I was at Gordon, all my classes were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so I still worked for Carl Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that was tough because I still had to get all of my schoolwork done and I had to work, but it was good for me. It taught me, those years when I look back on it, taught me a lot of discipline. And you know this from going to school. I never pushed y'all to go to school, never pushed any of my kids to go to school. But it does teach you discipline, and it makes you realize that you can do hard things, because school was hard for me the first 2 years. So we lived there until I was 19, and then I was in Gordon. I finished Gordon, and I decided that, because I always liked sports. Pawpaw loved sports. We played basketball. I have so many good memories on the farm. We had a dirt basketball court. We played a lot of basketball, a lot of ping pong, and a lot of horseshoes. Pawpaw had a horseshoe pit, and so we would work hard all day, but Pawpaw was always good. At the end of the day, we'd either play a basketball game, a ping pong game, or we'd play horseshoes, and those are really good memories. We had a big pond there, and it was kind of down the hill, and when we got done working, we'd always go swimming in the pond. A lot of good memories of that.
Do you have any stories of you getting in trouble?
With
Just in general?
I believe I could write a book on that. Most of the time that I got in trouble, I don't really have a lot of memories of getting in trouble in Barnesville, but in Griffin, I had several friends. You don't know Nathan Johnson. Nathan Johnson was a good friend of mine that I met during T-ball. I actually saw his mama in Griffin the other day and got to talk to her. And then Nathan Andrews, which is Molly, and Molly Peak, Tyler Peak's wife.
Yeah.
Her younger brother Nathan, he would come over a lot, and we would always go to the creek. This was in Griffin. We'd always go down to the creek, and Mama would get mad because we'd come back wet and muddy. And so I remember one particular time she said, when so-and-so comes, I don't know if it was Nathan Johnson or Nathan Andrews, y'all are not to go down to that creek and get muddy. Well, we went to the creek and got muddy. Well, our house in Griffin, it was a 2-story house, actually 3 stories, but I could shimmy up the post on the porch because it had a shed porch that went all the way around the house. I could shimmy up the post on the porch and get on the roof and sneak into my room and get changed. And so that was the plan. I was going to shimmy up that post, go around and get in the room. And I come walking around the roof, wet, soaking wet in my wet clothes, and I was going to go in there and change. And I walked past your grandmother's window, me, Mama, and I stopped at the window, and she was standing right there at that window. She's like, I remember she screamed, "Bob, Ben's on the roof!" And so I got my fanny tore up for that. But usually that's what we got. I would get in trouble for that kind of stuff, and then me and Isaiah would get in trouble for fighting or,
Yeah.
or arguing and fussing. But
Tell me, I want you to tell the story about you getting your finger stuck in the receiver or whatever.
do you want me to tell that?
Yes.
I really want to go eat at Corner Cafe.
I know, I do too, but this is
Okay,
this is
so
stuff.
Mama, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and you don't realize that. You look back on it, but you don't really. We always were fed, but being homeschooled, Mama took us with her wherever she went, and for the most part, most of our childhood, it was me, Isaiah, and Jenny. Because Anna wasn't born until 1988, and I was 10 years old, so I don't have a lot of memories of Anna. I do when she was littler, but Anna was, when I moved out, Anna was only like 9 years old. So, and most of the memories with Anna were at the farm in Barnesville. But Mama was going somewhere. I don't know if she was going to back then Avon was a real popular thing. A lot of ladies sold Avon, and they'd have these little Avon parties. But I remember we went somewhere, and Mama's like, "I'm just going to run into this party for a minute. Now, y'all sit in the car and y'all behave." Well, there was a receiver hitch in the back, and it had, the receiver's got like a 1-inch hole, or it might have been like a 3/4. And I was, how you kind of, when something is, I just see if my finger would fit down in that hole. Well, lo and behold, my finger got caught in that hole, and I panicked and started pulling it hard, and the end of it swole up. Well, it wouldn't come out. So she comes out of that party, and I've got this trailer hitch stuck on my finger. And she said, what are we going to do? She called Daddy in it. We ended up going to the emergency room. I'm sitting in the emergency room holding a trailer hitch with my finger through it. People looking at me like I was an idiot, which I was an idiot. And she's like, but we didn't have insurance at the time. And she's like, what, she's like, come on. So anyhow, we ended up going over to Bill Petrie. He was retired or worked for home, and Bill put that trailer hitch in a vise, and he took a hacksaw and he cut. And when he got down close to my finger, he stopped, and he came back and he cut another angle, and he cut it was inch thick steel, and he cut through it with that, and I got my finger out. Mom was so relieved. But yeah, that was.
Did you get your fanny tore up for that one?
No, I didn't get spanked for it, but it was, when you're walking around with a trailer hitch on your finger, that's kind of punishment enough. You felt like an idiot, and I was.
How old were you?
46 maybe. No. I don't know. Probably we were still living in Griffin, so I was probably 9 or 10. But then when we moved to Barnesville, learned a lot about working. I worked for a guy down the road cutting hay. I spent the majority of my years in the spring and summer and the fall, from the time I was 12 until I was about 16 or 17, on a tractor cutting hay. We cut a lot of hay, and which was good. I learned a lot about how to work on things, and we had an old baler I could fix. We had an old sycamore. I remember I would leave the house with that sycamore with a little cooler with a lunch in it and a jug of water, and I would be gone all day at 13, 14 years old cutting hay. And Frank Abbott, he used to help us cut a lot, and he had a job that he could come and go. He was the clerk of the Superior Court in Barnesville, and so he would come out and check on me in the afternoon, make sure I was okay. But had a big old toolbox full of sycamore blades and rivets, and every time I'd hit a stump or a tree, I'd have to stop, put a new rivet on there, and just learned a lot of good skills of working with my hands and learning to work in the heat. And a lot of the stuff that I still enjoy to do today was because of those things that I did not necessarily enjoy when I was that age, but you don't think you enjoy it until you're older and you look back on it and you enjoy it. So lived there, ended up going to Gordon, getting my 2-year degree. During that time, I realized I wanted to teach PE, and so I taught PE. When I graduated from Gordon, I had a 2-year degree, and I was looking. Back then, there were not a lot of places within driving distance to where I could go get my bachelor's degree in health and physical education. And so I got accepted to, I think I got accepted to UGA, but I ended up going to West Georgia and Carrollton. And so I went there for 2 years and got my bachelor's degree in health and PE. And during that time, I'd still come home. My junior year in college, I didn't have classes on Fridays, so I'd still come home and I would work for Carl on Fridays, and a lot of times he would let me work half a day on Saturday if we had to set windows or something. So I worked for Carl then, and met your mama during that time. I came home, went to there was a Baptist camp in Toccoa, Georgia called Camp Impact, and I remember I was building Aunt Jenny and David's house. My sister, your aunt. I was building their house, and Luke Hardy was like, man, you need to go to Camp Impact. Come be a counselor at Camp Impact. Anyhow, went to Impact, ended up meeting your mama there, and that was in the summer of 2001 that I went there. And it was right after my junior year of college. Anyhow, met your mama. We started dating shortly after, and then in the fall of 2001, on Thanksgiving Day, your mama came down and I proposed to her, and we got engaged and we got married. I graduated from West Georgia. I graduated there in the spring of 2002, and ended up getting a job at Luella Middle School. And your mom and I moved to Jackson, and we lived there for a year because she still had one more year of college, and she went to Milledgeville and I went to Henry County. And I taught PE and coached football there, coached basketball for one season, and coached high school golf for 6 years in Henry County. And then I moved, got an assistant principal job in Spalding County, and I've been in Spalding County since 2008, the 2008-2009 school years when I moved to Spalding County. And I've been there.
From Henry?
From Henry. Been there ever since. But throughout that time, our first house that your mom and I built when we moved was over off of East Milner Road. We lived there for 2 years, and then we lived right next door in the apartment of your granddaddy's house while we were building this house, and we've been here, I think 17, 18 years. So
yeah. Well, I want to kind of step back to your childhood and highlight one thing. What would you say is one thing you got to experience in your childhood, or one value you were taught that is not taught, or children?
Are you winging it, or is this part of the questions?
This is me winging it.
Repeat the question.
What's one value or thing you got to do in your childhood that was taught, or you got to experience, that is not taught or experienced today?
So a value, I think, which is taught by some parents. Hold on. Where's my sponsor?
No, we're not sponsored by them.
We're not. I'm going to cover up the logo.
Please do. Because you can't say that stuff. You get in trouble for...
We'll put it back. One day you might, though.
Might, potentially.
One day you might. I really appreciate Pawpaw. We did not sleep in at the Steele house ever. We were up, and y'all are the same way. Now, I'm a little bit more gracious than your Pawpaw was. I let y'all sleep in on Saturdays. Me and Isaiah did not sleep on Saturdays. And that was always a fight, but Pawpaw taught us discipline and taught us how to work hard. And I always knew that if teaching didn't work out, I would always be able to make a living doing something with my hands. And so I would. I remember when we were in Barnesville, we had a porch swing one day, and I'm like, I bet I can make that porch swing. And so I ended up making porch swings one summer. I bet I sold 50 porch swings, and I would sell them to the hardware store in town, and he would resell them. But just hard work, and a love for family was a value that Papa instilled in us. We were always together as a family. Every evening, instead of watching TV, Papa would read, or me and Mama would read books to us. And so I learned a love for reading, which I struggled learning to read. I didn't really learn to read real well until I was about 12 years old.
Wow.
And but I would read chapter books and series and stuff, and that's what we would do. We would have to be in bed at a certain time, but we'd have to be in bed, but we were allowed to read for a certain time, and so that was a value. And then memorizing scripture. Papa used to make us memorize scripture, and that was a value and something that I treasure. And I think your mama's done a good job. I probably could have done a better job with y'all of trying to get God's word in your heart, but I think y'all have done a good job with that. But those are things that I was taught that were values that I think that have transferred to y'all. I look at you and even Abby and Jacob and Caleb, and y'all are all hard workers. Y'all know the value of hard work, and you know how to communicate with adults. I say this a lot, even in my job when I'm talking to parents, but teaching your children how to communicate with adults is very important. And I tell people a lot of time you were born at the age of 40, because you can talk to anybody, and that comes from your pawpaw, teaching that to me and me teaching it to you. But
well, and it's something that, like, we've talked about it here, but not many people my age know how to talk to adults. Like, they're 18, 20 years old, and they can't carry a conversation with an adult. They can't look them in the eye. And I think it's a large in part to growing up behind a device their whole life.
Yeah, and we always want to blame things nowadays on devices and screen time, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. But I also think it's just the absence of parents. And some of the problem with the kids on the device is because the parents on the device all the time. And I even struggle with that sometimes. I'll be watching a YouTube short or something, and y'all are saying something, I don't even hear it. So I have to be intentional about that. But I do believe that is the enemy always has something every generation that he tries to use to destroy people's lives and destroy family. And right now, it's technology, I think, is what he's trying to use. But
what do you think it was when you were growing up?
I don't know. There were things you could get into, smoking and drinking and stuff like that was that's what kids did to be rebellious back then. I was never around drugs at all, thank God, but the devil uses that kind of stuff. One of the things back then too, I think that, like, for entertainment a lot, we would go watch movies, and we would have to drive all the way to Jonesboro. There were a couple of theaters in Griffin, but we would drive all the way to Jonesboro, and so you were out late doing that. Back then the big thing was just kind of hanging out with your friends. We would cruise the strip in Griffin, but you'd go drive through, where Big Lots is now, North Griffin Square, across from Walmart where Bell's Outlet is and all that. Mm-hmm. We would cruise that strip, and then you'd cruise all the way down Taylor Street, go all the way down past, kind of cruise around the little downtown Griffin where Corner Cafe, and then you make the loop and go back and cruise through the parking lot. I didn't ever do that a whole lot, but that's what a lot of people did. But every generation, he has something that he tries to use to attack people. I think the cell phones and technology is a tricky one because it's very deceiving. It doesn't seem like it's a bad thing, but it can be. But I'm getting off topic. So go back to your question, what values? We lived a very disciplined, structured life growing up, and I thank God for that, because from being homeschooled yourself, And your mother has done an excellent job of being structured and disciplined with y'all. But it's easy for homeschool parents not to be that structured because there's not anywhere they really have to be in the morning. And so I always tell homeschool parents, if you're going to do it, teach discipline to your kids, because there is a lot of good discipline that comes from getting up every morning and going to school.
Absolutely.
It teaches kids that they got to be somewhere and there's somebody dependent on them. So that, but just, very blessed to be raised in a Christian home. I don't really know what it would be like not to be. And so a lot of the values and things that I know, I think sometimes I have to be careful not to take them for granted because they've been taught to me. We had devotions a lot growing up. And so, yeah.
So I guess then what was your progression once you got to Spalding County in your career there? Where did you begin?
I began at Cowan Road Middle School. I was there for 2 years, and then I went to Cowan Elementary. I was there for 3 years, and then I went to Kennedy Road Middle School. I was there for 2 years as assistant principal, and then I'm at Futrell Road Elementary now. I've been there. This is my 13th year as a principal there. Love it. Love that place.
What do you love about it?
What do I love about it? I'm very proud of the staff that I have there. I have a lot of great people that work there. They love kids. I love the community. I love the parents. But I think more than anything, I love the kids. It's hard to have a bad day when you're around kids all day long. And there's always something that makes you smile. And so being around kids all day long is a special thing because they're so innocent and they don't have a care in the world. They're happy all the time. And so it makes you happy. So, yeah, Spalding County has been good to me. Futrell Road has been good to me. But more than anything, God has been very good to me in that job.
What would you attribute the success of, I guess, your career and Futrell Road Elementary being one of the best elementary schools in Spalding County?
I don't know about that. I don't really think, I wouldn't attribute any of it. I think it's the grace of God. But I also try to lead. I try to hire people and lead people and treat people with love and kindness and compassion and mercy and grace. And I think that my teachers try to teach their kids that too. And so I think that our school is a place where people know that they're loved and heard and feel valued. One of my bosses said one time, and it was the best compliment that anybody has ever given me. He said, "Ben, you're the kind of principal I would want my kids to have." And that's I want to be the kind of boss that people want to have, and I want to be the kind of principal that parents want to have, and I want to be the kind of principal that students want to have. And so I'm not perfect, and I make a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of things that I need to get better at, but God has blessed our school, and He has blessed me with the job that there's days that are hard, and there's things that I have to deal with that are hard, but when I look back, I have way more good memories of my career than I do bad memories, and I just feel blessed to be there. It's a hard job, and it's gotten harder and harder with all the things that have happened in our society, and going through COVID was a very hard time to be an educator. Once we got back in the building, it was a tough time, and the different things that we have to a lot of things we have to make sure that we're keeping the kids safe with, and things that we're doing to be in compliance that are important things that can be overwhelming and stressful at times. But I always know that God's seen me through some hard times that I've gone through, that's the one thing that I would, and I've taught Sunday school and youth with y'all all the time. When you can look back in your life and see the faithfulness of God, that faithfulness that I look back on Him is what gives me strength to face the future, because He's always been faithful, and He always will continue to be faithful, even when we're not.
What
Had to tell you
What do you
that
mean
a
by
lot.
that, though?
Well, I'm not faithful to him all the time. I'm not faithful in walking by the Spirit all the time. I'm not faithful in my quiet time but that doesn't mean if I go a day without being faithful, he's not going to go a day without being faithful. He's always going to be faithful. I might not always spend my money in the right way. I might not always handle situations with my kids in the right way, but he is always going to be faithful in the way he responds to us. Even in his discipline towards us, he's faithful because his discipline is out of love.
Have you seen that been so throughout your life?
Oh, yeah. You betcha.
So what do you think, how do you think you've changed as a principal and a leader from your first year at Futrell to your 13th year?
Ugh. Some would probably say for the better. Some would probably say for the worse. When you've gone through lots of different scenarios and situations, I think I'm more calm in the stressful situations than I used to be. I think I've gotten better of being able to identify who's good at what and delegating things. You know, it's even that way in construction. I mean, when I worked construction, Carl was the same way. There were certain ones of us that were better at decking and doing other things than others, and he would assign different tasks. And so I've learned, I've always been blessed to be able to hire good people. I've had really good assistant principals that have made my job way easier than it should be because they're so good and capable. And I've had really good academic coaches that help with the curriculum part of it. So I think I've gotten better at times with learning how to prioritize the things. You know, there's always something that's facing you that you got to get done in that job. And I've always been good at trying to get those things done quickly so that I can spend time being in the cafeteria or being involved with the kids and being in classrooms. So probably time management, I would say, and delegating I've gotten better over the years at. So you can't be a successful leader in an organization if you don't learn how to delegate. And if you don't, and here's what I'll say about delegating. One thing that has helped me a lot. We meet every week in all of I call it my better seeking team, which there's about 5 or 6 people on that, but they're the key players of the school. They're the ones that get the things done behind the scenes. The teachers are the real workers. They're the ones teaching the kids. But the ones that do the other things behind the scene, every year I start off with points of accountability, and it's usually a list of 10 to 15 things that they're responsible for. And I believe that most people, when expectations are clearly communicated to them, they will meet those expectations. Most of the time when people are not successful, it's because the leader hadn't been clear on what the expectations are. And so I try to start off with that, and that has helped me a lot. But a lot of times,
I'm sure it's helped them too.
I think they appreciate that. One of the things that I've been working on here recently is understanding what are the things that if I'm fixing to assign this task to you, first of all, I got to trust that you can complete that task. And then I got to be able to release it to you and not micromanage it.
Yeah.
And so I think as I was younger, and I'm trying to do better, and you'd have to ask Stephanie if I'm doing better with this because she's my AP. But I don't want to give somebody something that's like, all right, y'all plan this event or y'all take care of this, but then I have to come back and tell them, no, I want you to do it this way. Once I tell you that this is how I want to go, I need to really, and now there's some things that I have to, because of experience, say, this is how I want you to do it. And this is because I've done it before and I know this has been successful. But I'm trying to learn how to decide what are the things that I really truly want to release. And when I truly release those things, I need to step back and let them work through it and not micromanage it. So I'm trying to get better at that.
Well, and I'll say that's not just in administration, like that's in construction too, with like what I do. If I assign somebody to go do something like Jacob, I go tell him to do all this, and then I'm coming over there looking over his shoulder, or I grab the saw from him and cut it, then I really haven't assigned the task to him. I've told him to do something, but I haven't let go and let him decide how to do that.
I wasn't really good with that with y'all growing up. But I think just like the siding that you replaced for me, I didn't come out there and tell you how to do any of that because I trusted you now. I could. Now, I was a little bit nervous.
I was worried you were.
And I didn't, but I was a little bit nervous about the baseboard that you put around the columns in the front because it's a compound miter. It's a miter cut and a bevel cut at the same time. I'm like, well, I mean, it was. I would give it an 85 on a scale of 100.
Okay.
Nothing a little caulk won't hide.
Well, when you do work free, you get what you pay for.
I wouldn't say. Let's not get to. We want to make this podcast about free stuff. Because I think
you're my dad, okay? You had to give me a lot of free stuff.
I know. So
I want to ask this: like, how has the school system changed? Do you think, or education as a whole, from the time you went in the mid 2000s or early 2000s to now?
Not a whole lot. I mean, there's some things that have changed. If parents could be more involved in their kids' lives, that would help a lot. But I do realize that parents are busy.
So then how have y'all navigated incorporating more technology into like students' lives from mid 2000s where no kids really had like personal laptops at school to now? What's that been like?
Well, we've always had technology in Lamar. I mean, in Spalding. I was thinking about the farm. That's why I said Lamar. I don't think it's really changed a whole lot because we've always had technology since I became a principal, pretty much. But, you go through phases where, kids have programs that they have to be on that help them with skill deficits or help them build a foundation in reading and writing and math. But I guess probably the biggest change is when we went from doing the end of the year testing on paper, where they used to have to fill out the bubble sheets and they had a paper booklet, and now they all do it online. And so that makes you a little nervous as a principal, but I mean, technology is such a part of the kids' lives now, it's not much different. I just worry sometimes that they're losing the pencil paper aspect of stuff. So we try to do things to where they still can hone their skills in pen to paper stuff. Yeah. So, but I mean, it hadn't changed. I mean, you have different, safety is a big concern now. We've had to really make sure that we know how to respond in emergency situations and do everything that we can to keep kids safe. And I think that our school system has done a really good job of putting things in place to keep people safe. But
so you've been at Futrell Road for 13 years, and you're kind of
12. I'm going into 13.
Okay. But you're sort of, I guess you could say, rounding out your career now. You only have a few more years, and then you're
into the golden years.
Yeah, then you're eligible for retirement. So, like, has the time flown by these 20-something years?
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's another thing that I want to make sure that, and there's days where I really want to retire, and I look forward to that, but I don't want to miss the moment. You know what I mean? I want to be present in the moment and not always looking for the future. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me one time, the days are long, but the years are short. And when I look back and when I look at baby pictures of you and the kids and think back to all the stuff that me and your mom have gone through, it seems like it just poof. And so I'm really trying to focus now to be present where I'm at, and there's so many good things happening at my job at Futrell, and so many fun things that I'm seeing, so many great things that we're doing and learning, and I want to be fully there. So saying that, that's one thing that I feel like the Holy Spirit's really been saying. You need to be present where you're at, and I want to finish. I want to finish strong. I don't want to be somebody that's just over it and just like, Oh, I can't wait to retire. Everybody looks forward to retirement. We should look forward to retirement. But I'm like your papa. I'm not ever going to retire. I might just change my profession and do something else, but I'm not going to retire. So I'm trying to learn in it, not in a negative way, but live in the moment, moment by moment. Live in the moment. Live for today. Plan for the future, but live for today. Because if you're always thinking about the future, you miss so many opportunities that come up in the day. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because I say I don't like long podcasts, but I see why your podcasts are so long right now. One of the most important things when you work a job, our time spent with the Lord is important because we learn to love Him and we learn to fellowship with Him. But we also, that time is so that we have power and strength of the Holy Spirit to get through the day. When I intentionally get up in the morning and say, Lord, I want to be used by you today, help me walk by the Spirit. When I intentionally do that and I'm in tune and all the noise that's in my head of everything I have to do, not just at work, but here at the house and situations that I have to deal with, when all of those things are clogged in your head and you're thinking about those and you can't keep your mind fixed on Him, then sometimes you miss those opportunities. And so where I'm at right now is I really, really want to be used by the Lord in what I'm doing right now, day by day. I don't want to live for the weekend. I don't want to live for the end of the day. I want to be fully present where I'm at and be used by the Lord where I'm at every day. And I think if young people and people in general could learn to do that, to say, Lord, use me each and every moment of the day. Help me be aware of the situations that you bring them. Then I think we as a church would be a lot more effective. But I think the pace of the world is so much faster and there's so many different things now that we're missing opportunities because we don't slow our minds down and focus on what's really important.
Or slow our lives down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hither and thither is what Papa said.
Yeah.
We're going hither and thither. Quit going hither and thither.
I think that's in the Bible or something.
I think this is the first Saturday afternoon that you've been home in a while.
Probably so.
Yeah. You're probably itching right now. You probably got plans tonight to go to Ben's to play basketball or something.
He invited us over, but I'm not going tonight.
Because you think you might get a free meal?
Yes. So I guess what has that been kind of a struggle for you throughout your life is always living for the next moment and not in the present?
I wouldn't say my whole life. I think you go through seasons in life to where, and most of the time when you go season through that is because you kind of get off balance or off focus, or I wouldn't say backslidden, but I would say you get so busy sometimes that you don't just slow down and realize I need to recenter. So there's been times in my life where I need to recenter. And I think over the last couple of months, I've really been able to recenter. It's a different time in life for me and your mama now. Everybody's grown. I was thinking about that last night at the football game. I was thinking about, I was watching those kids play down there in that dirt, and I'm like, those parents got to go home, be home at 11 o'clock. They still got to get all those kids cleaned and bathed and in the bed, and that season of my life is gone. But you go through seasons of life where you have to stay recentered. But I think I would like to say that as I continue to grow and mature in my walk with the Lord, that I learn to prioritize things that are important. So,
what's important for you right now in this season?
I want to know more about the Lord. I want to fall in love with His Word. And I know that requires discipline on my part. I love Him, but if I love Him, I should want to get to know Him more. And I can't get to know Him more if I'm not spending time with Him. So,
has that ever been a challenge for you, like growing up in a Christian family your whole life, and like all the Bible stories and all this, and has it ever become mundane or kind of boring to you in a sense?
Yes. Not boring, but I tell you what really changed my walk with the Lord and my desire to be in His Word is when I got a Bible that had the footnotes in it. And I quit reading the Bible out of legalism. For so many years of my life, I was like, okay, I'm going to read a Psalms and a Proverbs and 2 chapters here. And I was just checking it off the list. But when I slowed down and said, why am I putting this, it was kind of a legalistic attitude behind the Bible. I got to do this, this, and this, because that's what a good Christian does. But when I started slowing down and trying to read the Bible because I want to hear the Lord speaking to me and I want to understand it, and slowed down a little bit with it, that's when I felt like I really started growing in my walk with the Lord and really learning to meditate on Scripture. And so, does that answer your question?
It does. I guess just kind of wrapping up now, we can kind of close with this, but
Rap?
Yeah.
Forrest Frank?
No, not that kind of rap, like close, like finish out.
Lemonade. Hey. Is that considered rap?
It would be it would be considered Christian pop.
Christian
music,
pop.
Not rap necessarily.
Okay.
So that's a story in itself. You used to hate Forrest Frank.
Oh man,
you could not stand his
when
music.
I'm reading my Bible and having my quiet time.
Nothing better than some.
There's nothing better than a little bit of lemonade. Hey, could you explain to me why are they?
Well, I guess.
Why do they do
the hand motions with it?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess
because I know what this is, but like, what is it? Just a tick? Is it?
Well, I think you kind of feel the beat.
Oh,
okay. It
okay.
makes you. It makes you.
That might be a question for Connor.
Okay. I'll have to ask him that.
He probably knows.
I'll have to ask him.
If he doesn't, Dr. G does.
He knows it all.
He knows it.
So, you've been a parent for almost 21 years now. And I'm just going to...
Where'd you come up with that number?
Because I'm almost 21.
Because you're almost 21. Right. I can't believe that.
Right. That's crazy. Does that make you feel old, or is it just kind of like...
Nah, it doesn't make me feel old. I mean, I get sad sometimes when I think about...
You can move the mic if you need to.
Where do you want me to move it?
Just anywhere that's comfortable.
I get a little bit teary-eyed when I see pictures or videos of y'all when you were little. And that was... When y'all were young, like 10 and under, was a very, very busy time and stressful time. I was an assistant principal at a middle school, and there were a lot of long hours, and I feel like I missed a lot sometimes. And then I had a hard time when I was home being present here because I was so tired. And so but the good thing about the Lord is He's a redeemer of time, and so I try not to focus on what I did. I try to learn from what I did wrong, and I try to be a little bit more gracious in the way that I respond to y'all. But I look forward to I got 4 kids that love Jesus, and I have 4 kids that are not lazy and work hard and want to please me and your mama. None of you are walking and living in rebellion, and man, that's a blessing. And so I look at that, and sometimes I think about the things I didn't do right and the examples that I didn't set, but I also look at the fruit in y'all's life, and I'm grateful that the Lord has been gracious to us in that. And then I look at the fruit of some of the other kids that I was a part of, in youth group and Sunday school and on the worship team, and I see their love and their stability in Christ, and I'm like, hopefully God used me a little bit in their lives. So, but I'm young. I want God to continue to use me. I look forward to a time in my life where I can do mission work and things like that, and be a blessing to you, be there when you build your house, and be there for my kids, and
grandkids too one day.
God has been good to us, and but I do think there were some decisions that we made early on that were hard decisions. And, part of my testimony was when before you were born, we really felt like the Lord wanted your mama to stay home with you. And when we did all of our finances, there was no way it was going to work. We were going to be in the hole. And so just through a series of, from our obedience, but we went ahead and took a step of faith and said, whatever it takes, we're going to make this happen. God opened several doors, provided some lawn care accounts for me. I was able to sell a piece of property. But he has given me, because of that sacrifice that we made, I think I'm seeing a lot of the fruits of it now with y'all, and your mom being able to be there for you and be an integral part of your life all day long, every day, your whole life, has been a huge blessing. And then even how he's blessed us with this home and with the land and with everything. Y'all have been healthy. We've been blessed with health. We hadn't gone on extravagant vacations and never went out to eat a lot, but never drove really fancy cars, but God has blessed us. Grateful for your mother, who has loved me when I shouldn't have been loved, and I make the money and I do the budget, but she makes sure that we stay on it.
Yeah,
and
she does.
She does, and that has been a blessing, and we're seeing some of the fruits of that now. But I can honestly say, if we're looking materialistically, that God has blessed us with a lot of material things, but that's not where I find my value, and that's not where I don't look at these things and say, man, I've been successful. I look at my children and my wife and the blessings that God has poured out in my life, and that's when I say, Lord, you've been good. And success to me doesn't look like what I've accomplished in my career as an educator, not what I have accomplished in the things that I've accumulated on this earth, but it's the fruit that I see in your life, in Jacob's life, in Caleb's life, and in Abby's life, and the decisions that I see y'all making. And just even you in this podcast, bringing people on that can speak life and wisdom and that you can learn from, that's a blessing. And that's some of the fruits that at this age that I'm able to enjoy. And I thank God that he has been so gracious to me and your mama, and given us 4 wonderful kids and friends. We have some really good friends that we've been able to do life with that have been a blessing, that have encouraged me and corrected me and led me on in the Lord and spurred me on in the Lord. And so I've had a good life. If I was to go tomorrow, I couldn't complain. He's given me everything I've ever wanted.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. So,
yeah. I got a lot left to do. Papa says we're invincible until the Lord's done with us, and I know he's not done with me.
It's true.
So,
okay, I'm going to give you a couple stages of life, and you tell me what was the hardest part of that stage. As far as raising kids, what was the hardest part about that stage, and what was the biggest lesson learned? Okay, so we'll start here, 0 to 5 years old.
So we had 5 kids at 0 to 5. When you were 5...
4.
Well, it was 4, sorry. When you were 5, we had 4 kids, because y'all were all that close together. That was hard, but it wasn't as hard for me as it was for your mama. Mm. Your mama, when you got that many kids that need so many different things at one time, it's very hard. That was hard for me because I'm always, I'm always doing something, got something going on, and it took me a long time to learn that the first, I had to prioritize, and we probably should do a podcast with me and your mama together.
I think that would be good.
Sometime, so that she can, because I wasn't always...
Tell her perspective.
Yeah, because I don't want to say something and her get on here and it's like, I can't believe you said that on that podcast, you'd be blah, blah, blah. Because so when y'all were little, I was leading worship at church, and she had y'all, and I'm talking to people, and y'all are hanging from the ceiling, and a lot of times she'd get frustrated with me because I wasn't helping out.
Right.
And so that was hard for me. And I think sometimes I was good at it and sometimes I wasn't. And so I've always tried to do, over the years, and I've been trying to be better to make sure that I help out around here, the things that your mama needs me to help out with. I hadn't always done that. But that was a hard time. That was a busy time. When y'all got up, I guess when Caleb got to be about 6 or 7, he things got a little easier. Y'all were playing basketball. That was a fun time. But every stage in life is different. I don't think one is harder than the other. We always thought the early years, and they were hard for your mom. But when you got teenagers in the house and you got relationships, like you and Abby are blessed. Y'all got godly, wonderful, Ansley and Simon are such a blessing, and we love them to death, and y'all have made good choices with that. I hope you continue to make good choices, but there's always a worry in parents that you're going to make good choices when you're not here, and Abby's going to make good choices, and Jacob's not going to drive too fast, and you got a whole different realm of issues and things to deal with when they become teenagers. Because right now I'm sharing the house with 4 adults.
Yeah.
5 adults if you count your mama, and that's a different.
Yeah, I mean, so now all your kids are over the age of 15. So I mean, what's that like? What's the biggest challenge, do you think?
Well, I told your mama that it's like, what's today, Saturday? Thursday?
Saturday.
I said, Mama, no, Thursday night. I said, Mama, I said, Sarah, I said, just so you know, Thursday night's the new Friday night. Jacob's up at the shop till 1 o'clock in the morning working on his truck. What the heck? I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. I mean, y'all are just all over. It's like a frat house. That's what I told your mama. It's like, just party every night here. That's hard, having to let go of that and let y'all become adults. And I know y'all have things you got to get done. You're not down here playing, gaming or whatever. But that's hard. And I'll say this and we can move on, because every stage of life is different. The one thing that is not different is that we need Jesus every step of the way. And he has all the answers that we need for the moment. He allows us to go through stressful stages and different things in our life because it's part of the process of growing. A lot of times when we were going through hard things with y'all, I always would tell your mama and I would always pray this: Lord, what are you trying to, even though I might be dealing with an attitude or action with my kid right now, God, what are you trying to teach me through this? What are you trying to teach me through this? And even with y'all now, and you and I have a good relationships, but there's times where, you got your idea of what's right and I got my idea of what's right. But a woman that was instrumental in your mom and I's life years ago when y'all were little told me about 2 or 3 years ago, and she didn't say it quite this way, but she did use relationship over being right. She used that word. And so sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not. But I'm at the stage in life right now where you may make different decisions. Now, if you make a decision that I see that's really going to harm you, I'm going to speak up, and I've told you that. Because your pawpaw still does that to me. And I'm going to always do that with you. But I don't want to drive a wedge in my relationship with my kids just because I got to be right. Even though biblically I am right, or just maturity wise I'm right because I've been there and I know that, if me pounding that into you guys is going to turn your heart away from me and create a wedge in our relationship, then I'm having to learn just to pray through those things and not cram them down your throat. And so this stage in the life, like especially you and I's relationship, it's moving. I'll always be your daddy, but I've taught you about all I can teach you as far as ready to let you go out and spread your little wings and fly. which you're fixing to fly away, and I have no worries about whether or not you're going to be successful. But there's nervousness in that, and that's a different stage in life. I think it's going to be harder on your mama when y'all go than it will be me, because
You might cheer, she might cry.
no, I won't cheer, but I mean, we're always talking, and we always have that connection of things that, you do construction. We're always going to be friends. And but your mama, the thing that connected her with y'all was taking care of you and feeding you, and she's going to lose some of that connection, and that's always harder on the mama. So what else you got?
So offer every guest opportunity to highlight or underline a verse or a passage of scripture, right?
Yep,
So would you be willing to do that?
I would be willing to do that.
Okay. And just put your name beside the verse that you...
I need to find the reference, but my verse is, don't worry about anything, but make your request known to God through prayer with thanksgiving and petition. Make your request known to God. That's one of the things, and I want to make this point before I go around that verse, that I think is very important in the Christian life, especially in young people's lives, really any stage of life. Peace and comfort and joy in the Lord only comes through thanksgiving. So let me explain that for a minute. A lot of times we leave out another one of my favorite verses, pray without ceasing, and everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. The majority of scriptures that you find about peace and joy are always accompanied by thanksgiving. Learn to live thankfully. There is so much when I'm depressed or down, I intentionally will call out loud the things that God has blessed me with and the things that I'm thankful for. Learn to live. Number one, Miss Patty, if she listens to this, always told me, Ben, you got to learn to live a life unoffended. Learn to walk unoffended. Learn to see others as Christ sees them, out of love. But then learn to walk and live in thankfulness. And when we learn to walk and live in thankfulness as a believer, the joy of the Lord and the peace of the Lord will come over us. So that's my scripture verse. I'll underline it.
That's good. All right. 3 people you'd like to see here on the show. Ask everyone.
Nate Bargatze. I really would like to see him on
He's
here.
funny.
Yeah.
I just saw this thing. So he won the Guinness World Record for most tickets sold on any comedy tour in history.
Really?
His world tour, they sold like 2 million tickets.
I would like to see Ryan Linkus on here. You'd have to probably do it through a Google Meet. Could you do that? You don't know how to do that?
I don't.
You don't do that. You're
No,
studio.
I don't want to do any Zoom calls. I want them to all be in person. So we'll have to wait till he comes down.
I really like the ones that you're doing where people tell their life stories, but I think that there are some certain people that we know that have some specialty areas that they're really... I would love for you to have Big John Hush on and talk about conspiracy theories, because that man will wow you with some of the things that he knows. And he is one of my favorite people in the world to have conversations with. I really enjoyed when you and Zach did the little Braves thing.
Yeah, talked about sports.
So I'd love to see you, Nathan Hush, and John Hush do a little college football preview prediction show. Who else? Let's see. I would love for you to have Patty Faulkner on, and I know that I'd have to talk her into doing it, but I would love to hear. I would love for you to create some questions and her talk about the faithfulness of Jesus. because that woman has got some stories and some things that she's gone through. She's lost 2 husbands, and I think that her story would be really, really good. So, was that 3? Nate Forgotsky, Ryan Linkus.
5 or 6.
That's 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, good.
You ready to go to Corner Cafe?
All right, Daddy.
Are you paying for Corner Cafe?
Not tonight.
No.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
I'm going with you.
All right.
Thanks
Peace out. Love you.
Love you. Before you go, I just wanted to jump in here really quick and ask you to do just a couple things for me. We don't make a penny from this show. We are not sponsored or monetized in any way. This is a passion of mine and something that I believe the Lord has used, and I believe He'll continue to use. So, the things that I would ask this. I would ask that you would pray for the show and that it would continue to reach people and impact them, and that they may come to the saving faith of Jesus Christ through this show, that the stories we highlight on this show would radically transform their life and impact them in a powerful way. Second, I would ask that you would go follow the show on all platforms, whether this be Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube Music. There's so many platforms out there, but we're just asking you, go choose one or all of them if you're feeling very generous. That would be great. And then finally, if you would, write us a review. Leave a review. You can do this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Those reviews help. It'll encourage the algorithm to push the show out to more people. And then finally, like and comment. I know they talk about, everybody talks about this all the time, but y'all, that stuff really helps. And I enjoy reading comments all the time. That is super encouraging to myself and everybody that helps make this show possible. So write us a comment, and if you want to reach out to the show, we have a way to do that. You can reach out to us via Facebook, via Instagram, DM us there, and you can also email us. I'll leave the email down in the show notes, so you can just click that and shoot us an email over. We'd be happy to take a look at that, read that, and respond to you. So I just want to thank you all for the support you've shown throughout this year that we've started. This show has impacted more people than I anticipated it to impact this early on, and I am truly grateful for that. So y'all keep listening, and we will keep bringing you the stories that you enjoy and the stories that impact so many people.